to do with some of my students is play some really fat, easy licks, you know, that they like to do, that they like to mix in with some of the stuff that they do. Because most of my students, you know, they're doing some heavier rock stuff. And again, like I've said before in some of my other videos, a lot of my younger students, you know, they don't have any double pedals, and they don't have, you know, some of the tools that make some of those really fat power fills possible. And they haven't learned, you know, some of the things either. So usually after a little while, when you're taking lessons, you've learned 16th notes, and you've learned how to count them, and you've learned how to play them. So what I like to do is take a 16th note pattern, 1 E and a, 2 E and play it with my right hand on the floor tom. All right. So what we're going to do is actually we're going to play half of it, but we're going to play the ones and the ands and the twos and the ands, the three and the and, the four and the and. So the quarter note and the eighth note, we're going to play that right here on this bad boy. Okay. But we're going to mix in the 16th note part of it, the e's and the uhs, on our kick drum. So we're just going to use our right side, and we're just going to learn how to do this. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. All right? Get that down. Get that down to where you don't even have to think about doing it. It's going to take a little bit of a practice. You know, you're new. You're still trying to coordinate things, but that's something that's a lot of fun that you can just do on your own. Okay? Now, once we've taken that, let's take a simple flam, it's another rudiment that we learn. It's one of the very first things early on that we learn as students. And we're going to take a flam, all right? But what we're going to do is we're going to separate that flam. We're going to split it up, and we're going to play the left side on our snare, all right, to begin with. And then we're going to play the right side over here, where we're keeping our hand. And we're going to mix that flam on the downbeats, or the ones, the twos, the threes, and the fours of that pattern. So we started with this. Alright, now let's mix in that flam. Okay, now, one of the other things that I like to do once we get to that point is tell the students, move your left hand around. Keep your right hand here at all times, but move your left hand around and kind of experiment with some of the different melodies that you come up with that pattern. Just keep it simple. Keep it on the toms for now. And this is what you can come up with. Added a little double in there. Did you see that? Or I put it in the, you can do little things like that. Save that for later on, because that's just a little taste of what's going to happen with this when we start getting creative with it. Now, one of the other things I like to do is I tell my students, let's take that flam, all right, we got our flam, and let's take the gap on that flam and open it wide, all right? So we're going to take a flam, and we're going to turn it into what I jokingly call a clam, all right? And I call a clam, all it is a flam that's with a wide open gap. All right? There's 100 other things you can call it, probably more technical terms you can call it, but I'm not very technical. So let's take that clam and let's replace the flam that we were doing, and let's put a clam in there. Okay? I'm going to play the first four with a regular flam, and then I'm going to switch it to a clam. And then I'm going to go back and forth a little bit so you can hear some of the textures that you start getting with this. Here we go. Now, you notice I'm starting to move my right hand around, okay? You can do that. Move your right hand around, move your left hand around. You still want to keep that solid, or as I like to say, fuggadugga, 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 fuggadugga. We're keeping that powerful pulse going. When you take your right hand off that floor tom, you might lose that. So when you do take your hand off there and you go up here, you got to make sure you're putting some dynamic in there to kind of replace what you're missing with that lower end thump, all right? So let's move this around a little bit and see what we come up with. complicated. It's not rocket science. But the last thing I like to do with this is take it and crisscross my hands, all right? Now, sometimes your equipment gets in the way, but if you can crisscross your hands, number one, you come up with some really cool sounding patterns. Some of those melodies that are ping-ponging back and forth, you flip them upside down, and it sounds really, really kind of neat. And the other thing is that it can look pretty cool too. So there's nothing wrong with being a little bit of a showman when you're playing, okay? So let's do that. Let's crisscross a little bit, and let's see what happens, all right? Simple. Takes a little bit of practice to get used to the motion between your right foot and your right hand. That's probably going to be the most challenging part, I think. But have some fun with it and mix it in with your fills. You can use it as a solo. Just go and go and go. You can get creative later on. You can start smashing some cymbals when you're going around on the quarters. There's a lot of other things you can do with that. Work on this first and then get creative with it. Do whatever you can do with it. It's a lot of fun. Have fun, be creative. Thanks, guys.